Hey guys, what's up? Doing another collection video, this time the almighty Judas Priest, my second favorite band right after Black Sabbath. So I do have CDs to show with this as well. Another case where I don't have everything, but I got just about everything on one form or another. I got a couple of these I got on CD and vinyl. So I'm just going to go ahead and start off with the debut. This is obviously the alternate cover for Rock-A-Rolla. I have seen the original cover, a reissued version in scratch and spin. Not quite sure if I really want to go buy it just for the cover. This is where they started off. Obviously not where they would end up, even in the 70s. But I do think it's a better album than what a lot of people give it credit for. I think the title track's good. I think One for the Road is a really good song. Cheater's a good song in my opinion. Never Satisfied is pretty good. Even Dying to Meet You I think is pretty good. So, there you go. Debut. And then the next album would be Sad Wings of Destiny, which is getting more there, getting towards a more metallic sound. It's about 50-50 on the record, in my opinion. You got steady songs that stay on the rotation, like Victim to Changes and The Ripper, and you've got Tyrant and Genocide, which are good songs as well. I just think some songs like Dreamer Deceiver don't really hold up that well up now, but nonetheless a good album, and continuing to progress what their sound would eventually become. And then you had their next album, which was Sin After Sin, which was the first proper studio album that I ever owned for Judas Priest. I got into them about 1999. I bought A Living After Midnight, was a compilation they put out in 1997, just prior to their first album with Ripper Owens on vocals. And this is really, in my opinion, where they kind of key in on getting heavy. You got a heavy version of Diamonds of Rust, Sinner, Starbreaker, Call for the Priest, Raw Deal, Distant Aggressor, which Slayer would eventually cover. And then on their fourth album is when they really hit their stride, and they gave what I believe is their first perfect album, Stay in Class. Not a bad song on this album. I also do have the CD version, remastered version, which has a live version of the cover that they do, Better You Better Than Me. And then there's another song, what was it, Fire Down Below or something like that, from the Ram It Down sessions. Favorite songs on here, I mean, they're all great. Exciter, Saints in Hell's a great song. Savage is great. I was very surprised when I saw them in 21 that they played Invaders, which I wasn't expecting. And then you ramp the heavy metal up even more on Hellbent for Leather, which also in the UK, better known as Killing Machine. Great songs, and again they do another great cover. They cover the Green Manalichi, which was a Fleetwood Mac song. And if you ever actually listen to the Fleetwood Mac song, that song is really haunting just in the original version. But Priest, like they do with all the covers that they've done, they made it their own and make it sound like a Priest song. Then they give their first official live album, Unleashed in the East, live in Japan. I also have the CD that's got the 4 bonus tracks, 4 other songs from will end up being on the album. I don't know why they just didn't release it as a double album when they reissued it. I don't know, because I know a lot of reissues of albums that when they were remastered on CD, they had bonus tracks, but when they reissue it on vinyl for the first vinyl reissue, they don't contain bonus tracks like the first couple, Iron Maiden, the debut from Iron Maiden, also Number of the Beast. They don't include it, even though they obviously just could either, on those two records, you could have just added the extra song. You wouldn't even need a separate disc. But nonetheless, this is my all-time favorite live album of all. So, and then you get to where they finally start to kind of break in America with this one. 1980s British Steel, another, I call it a perfect album. I know Living After Midnight and Breaking the Law and those kind of songs are kind of I guess they're radio friendly songs, whatever. They're still really good songs, but Steeler's probably my favorite on here. You got Metal Gods, and then you've got Grinder, which is a great song as well. Rapid Fire is an awesome song. And then they dip down into some more commercialism, and I read Halfer's book, and they talked about the difficulties really putting this album together. Nobody was really kind of in their right mind. Somehow they released Point of Entry. So this album doesn't have another album name, but it does have a separate album cover, and I think both are absolutely terrible. But this still, it's another one that kind of gets thrown down in their catalog numbers wise, but it's still a decent album. I mean, you got Heading Out to the Highway, which I think is a really good song. Desert Plains is great. Solar Angels is great. On the Run is probably their most underrated song they ever did. And then gotta go to my recent spins to go grab this one out, because I listened to it recently. Then they kick it back into high gear again in 1982 with Screaming for Vengeance. Another great album. Not quite perfect. I'm not too hip on Take These Chains or Pain and Pleasure. But, other than that, I mean, it's definitely an 8.5 or a 9. Then they continue to ramp it back again in 84 with Defenders of the Faith. Great album. Perfect if not for the title track at the end, Heavy Duty Defenders of Faith. Not real hip on that, but I still give it like a 9.5 out of 10. You take those off, it's a perfect 10. My favorite from the 80s material, and it contains my favorite Priest song, which is The Sentinel. So their next album would be Turbo, and I don't have it on either format. But then they put out their second live album, Priest Live 87. This is basically all of their 80s stuff. I don't think there's anything much in the way out of the 70s on this one. Yeah, there's nothing from the 70s on this. Which is why Unleashed to the East is my favorite between the two, because I just personally, 70s Priest, I like it better than 80s Priest. I still love 80s Priest as well. I just think 70s Priest was better. And so what was supposed to be the second half of Turbo that became its own, Ram It Down, and I think it's better than Turbo. I don't think it's better than some albums. Like some people, I think some people try to overreach with this album. Maybe say how underappreciated or underrated it is. It is an underrated album, but I'm not going to put it above Painkiller, which some people have, and I think they're reaching a bit there. But it's still got some great songs. Heavy Metal, Ram It Down, Hard as Iron, Come and Get It, Blood Red Skies, great song, I'm a Rocker. I personally don't hate the Johnny B. Good cover, but I know a lot of people that do. And then they get to what is my favorite album, Painkiller. Perfect album. Just excellent. I don't really need to say any more about this album because I've probably said a million things about it in other videos. So that was 90 or 91 when that came out. And then, of course, they're on a hiatus for a little while because Rob Halford exits the band. And then, so they're kind of not really doing anything. And then they get their new singer, Tim Owens, also known as Ripper Owens. And they put out this beast right here, Jugulator. I love this album. It's a perfect album in my opinion. The second one, Demolition, which I don't have, is very lacking compared to this album. Not quite sure what the sound was they were going for that one, but this one I was very happy to be able to get back in my collection. Vinyl wise, I probably won't be able to get that just because it's expensive. There are some bootlegs out there and they're even expensive. And as far as like a reissue of that album, I don't think it's coming anytime soon because that record company went bankrupt, which is the reason if you have any streaming services, Spotify, Amazon, whatever, you'll notice that this album is not in that list of albums to stream because that company went bankrupt and you got to get the record company's permission to put the stuff out. So that's why you don't see it out there. And so, like I said, Demolition I don't have. They put out 2 live albums with Ripper. Live in London 2001 and Live Meltdown 98. Meltdown is just awesome, top to bottom. Then in 2005 they get back with Rob Halford and release Angel of Retribution, which I absolutely love. And I wouldn't quite call it a perfect album, but it's like really close, like a 9.7 for me. And that one I can get on vinyl. I've seen it fair, I won't say cheap, but decently priced. Then they kind of did another album where every once in a while Priest does an album where people kind of get divided on, and that was their album Nostradamus, which was a concept album about the man and his life and his philosophies and that kind of stuff. I personally found it a great album. I think you get to hear more of Rob's range, not so much doing the screaming stuff, but some of his lower notes and his baritones become like he really was honing in on that part of his craft. And I love this album. This probably would be in my top 10 concept albums. It's really long. It's a couple discs, but nonetheless, I think it is a great album. Then they do another album after that, which is Redeemer of Souls. The first one that would have Richie Faulkner on guitar after K.K. Downing had quit, said he was going to retire from the music business. We all know that story after that. Not even going to get into that. But so I don't have that one. I'm going to try and get that one though. Then the next album, they come back, and Firepower is an excellent record. I love this one. I'm still kind of scouting up to try to get a vinyl copy. They're not as cheap as they were when they first came out. But being able to snag it on a CD was very good, so I'm glad to have this one. And then last year they put out their most recent, and the only other color vinyl I have of theirs, Invincible Shield, which came out last year. And this is another banging album post 2000 for the Mighty Priest. I haven't quite got to the point where I know which one of these I favor more. This one or Firepower, it's getting, like, with every listen, this one's getting closer to being there. Firepower, there's a lot there as far as what this would have to beat in order to get there. But I think it's coming. So I don't know if it'll be there by the end of the year for me or not. But they've been closing out their career with really strong albums, which not a whole lot of bands that are around for 50, almost 60 years can say. That are still putting out great quality music, especially in the style of heavy metal. So you either slow down or you're pretty much quit, and Judas Priest has done neither one. So that is my Judas Priest collection. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, comment, whatever. Thanks for watching.